being known as one of the most haunted states in the USA, you might want to be a bit more cautious when traveling here. Located in the upper peninsula of Michigan, right around Lake Superior, you'll find the Landmark Inn. Yeah, nice and cute and cozy. Come on in, take your coat off, stay a while. This fancy hotel was originally built in 1930 as a luxury accommodation for wealthy business owners from all around the United States. Sounds like a good time. Let's gather, let's talk shop around candles. These business owners would visit the Landmark to check on their business interests, all that good stuff. Though for its 100 years being open to guests, the hotel has had multiple reports of, you guessed it, ghosts and paranormal activity. It's so common at the Landmark Inn that the ghost hunters and paranormal investigators, they make trips out to the hotel quite often just to check in and be like, hey, how's it going? And they put on their gadgets and they just check in on them. They can rely on them. The hotel's 6th floor is home to one of the saddest stories the hotel has ever seen. This story takes place in the 1930s when the hotel was a new, lively social and cultural center in town. The story revolves around a ship worker who fell in love with a local librarian and conducted their love affair in the Lilac Room. Yeah, of all places, of course, let's go meet the Lilac Room. Sounds beautiful. And that was where the man was staying. Perfect place to meet. The couple was said to have a planned wedding upon his return from the last voyage on the sometimes treacherous Lake Superior. Unfortunately, their love affair ended in tragedy when his ship met with a storm and sank to the bottom of a lake. He never returned to the shore, and the librarian mourned the man in said Lilac Room, eventually dying herself of a broken heart. The heartbreaking story comes with many reports of the Lilac Room now being haunted. Yeah, rightfully so, as a large number of guests has reported hearing cries and whispers from a female. The female is also seen by many guests and workers on the 6th floor near the Lilac Room, crying and mourning for her loved one. A less romantic story that is associated with the hotel goes back to when it was even finished being built. During construction, a man ended the life of his girlfriend due to anger and jealousy, and this took place right after she told him about her past boyfriends and their relationship history, just normal stuff that he flipped out on, just a monster. And since the hotel was still being built, to conceal the evidence, the man buried her in the unfinished basement. Just horrible stuff. You knew I was going there and you're like, please don't. To this day, decades later, visitors and employees report hearing cries from that basement, and some report hearing whispers from a female voice asking for them to find her body. I just got goosebumps. That's real goosebumps. No matter how much time goes by, these two women, heartbroken for different reasons, still haunt said hotel today. Number 4, Michigan Bell Telephone Building. The Bell Telephone Building can be found in downtown Grand Rapids. It's known from the legend that the building is haunted by 2 ghosts. It's always 2, eh? Always gotta have pairs. Good things come in pairs. Even demons. These spirits have consistently caused chaos throughout the buildings for years in their own unique personal way. We love it. We love a unique ghost. The spirits that haunt the Bell Building are rumored to be Warren and Virginia Randall, a couple who used to reside in the Grand Rapids. Back in 1907, they moved from Detroit and bought the Judd White Mansion in Grand Rapids, which has now been torn down and built into what we now know as the Bell Telephone Building. So a lot of history there already. Over the years of living in this new house, Warren and Virginia's relationship started to crumble as Warren became very strange and paranoid almost, creating hardships in their relationship. In 1908, Virginia became tired of Warren's strange and aggressive behavior, so she decided, I'm out of here, peace. She left him. One night, 3 years after they were separated, Warren convinced Virginia into taking a car ride with them, hoping to get back together, maybe talk it out. The two of them ended up at the Judd White House, where their verbal disagreement turned horrible, and Warren sadly took the life of Virginia. Then he proceeded to end his own life in the very same moment. The tragic accident that happened in the Judd White House became public knowledge, and the house was left empty with no one wanting to occupy it. Yeah, more than fair. I'm like, what's rent? Also, what happened? No. The house remained abandoned for 10 years after the accident until they finally just decided to tear the thing down completely. Thus, in 1924, they built the Bell Telephone Building on the ground, which still is in operation today. Yeah, they didn't tear that one down. That one's still going strong. Due to the horrifying scenes that happened on the grounds of the Bell Building, many claim that the spirits of Randall and Virginia still remain, haunting the new building. Some say that ghosts move into the new building and remain there to this day. I mean, I think that's possible. Ghosts like to move. They can go through walls. They can probably relocate. Through the years of operation in the office building, visitors and employees all report being harassed by strange late-night calls, which have been traced back to be coming from inside of the building itself. Yeah, inside the house. You guessed it. It's upstairs. That's so scary. Due to this and the strange, eerie feelings that the employees feel while they're even working, it's safe to say Randall and Virginia may remain on the grounds. Most likely. They're definitely there. It sounds like they're there. They're for sure there. Number 3, the Henderson Castle. Established in 1895, this castle is a hub for many spirits and paranormal activity. I mean, it's a castle. The original owners, Frank and Mary Henderson, are said to haunt the castle as they passed away back in 1899. Yeah, I wouldn't want to leave either. living or dead. Additionally, other spirits are said to reside in the castle, a young girl and a dog. Yeah, a dog! We've got a dog ghost. How do you deal with that? Ghost barks? That'd be so scary. In 2005, the castle was occupied by Peter Livingstone McNellis and his family. When the family resided in the castle, Livingstone's son, Vincent, before anyone else had ever reported anything strange happening in the house, he said that he saw an apparition of a figure in the Victorian room, originally the changing room for one Mary Henderson. The son said while pointing at a picture of a woman dressed in an old period clothing, some Victorian clothing, that was the woman he saw wearing that same clothing. I would throw up. If someone ever said that, I'd be like, oh, this Victorian painting? And one former innkeeper who stayed at the castle each night told Livingstone on numerous occasions that she also felt a presence coming up and down the staircase, a movement passing her on the stairs when she would walk by. Ugh, these are scary. Top 5 is like, or top 10 is scary fish. This is hard. This is some scary stuff. 9 a.m. I'm already getting spooked. While now the castle is being used for a bed and breakfast, guests have fallen victim to ghosts as well. Yeah, it's not over yet. The Henderson Castle is a very paranormal active ground that many ghost hunters have investigated, and they've confirmed, in fact, that it's haunted by spirits. I trust them. The people that can go into these castles and physically do this, I'm like, yep, I trust your opinion, whatever. He just comes out, he's like, haunted. We're like, thanks, Daryl. This has been confirmed as these ghosts have interacted with many paranormal investigator teams, in addition to guests and employees of the castle. Yeah, they're just harassing everyone. The ghosts seem to be friendly, not evil whatsoever, so that's a good side, I guess, to being haunted by ghosts. They have been known to speak and physically touch guests and employees. Just they touch them on their back, side, shoulder, always in the back. You never see it coming. It's always in this region. Not only that, but there's also been reports of radios making weird noises or turning on by themselves, even though they're either unplugged or just either turned off. Both bad, both scary. Guests and employees have also reported hearing footsteps upstairs, slamming doors from unexplainable sources, and some ghosts have been wearing the clothes that they wore while they were alive. Clothes that they wore while they died in, probably. As the spirit of Mary Henderson has been reported as many guests at the top of the staircase, wearing her usual getup. Imagine being like a clown, like a jester, and then you die in that, and that's what you look like as a ghost. You're like, what? I was doing a mascot gig. I don't want to look like a shark forever. Number 2, Allegan Lodge. The old Allegan Elk Lodge was built in 1909 and was used as a psychiatric and TB hospital until its closure in 1948. The lodge was a former hospital that was frequented by mobster Al Capone, and one that many say is haunted by at least 7 different ghosts. Yeah, you thought 2 was bad. Add 5 more. Now we got 7 ghosts. And it's currently on the auction block in Allegan. If you have a lot of money and bravery, there you go. While the structure was originally built by physician John Robinson in 1909, somewhere in the 1920s, it was sold to a doctor from the Chicago area who had allegedly had underworld ties. That's a great doctor. That's just who you want working on your pancreas. Brought pancreas back today. The facility was supposedly frequented by mafia figures such as Al Capone, the Prohibition-era Chicago mob boss, and his men. Yeah, well, they needed medical attention or when they simply needed to get away from Chicago, this is where they'd go. The old Elks Lodge, Al Capone. He's like, oh, it's cozy. They have great soup. Years later, it was used as an Eagles Lodge and an Elks Lodge. And in 2010, it was acquired by an Allegan woman who began renovating the property, but now she wants to sell it. Yeah, can't imagine why. Because one of the former doctors who owns the lodge had underworld ties, maybe? Something like that? I don't know. It led to a lot of people believing that there's a lot of undercover stuff about this lodge. It's still happening to this day. I don't know why I'm doing this like it's like over there, but I'm like, there's something going on in that lodge. Especially as it's known to hold 7 different paranormal entities, like I mentioned previously. For many years, employees and visitors have told stories of spirits who relentlessly roam the building. Some of the paranormal activity that has been experienced here includes cabinets opening up by themselves in the kitchen, sounds of children laughing, it's always calming in the morning, photographic anomalies captured throughout the building, and like you name it, shadowy figures in the basement, all bad. Notably where the morgue was located, the basement, good stuff, a lot of stuff happening in there. They'd be knocking on the front door, indiscernible conversations, and ringing at the doorbell when no one was present. Yeah, good stuff. Again, I have goosebumps, they're back. Guests also heard footsteps and the sound of hospital activity long after being used as one. They'd also see full-bodied apparitions of children. They would just see ghost children. That would be it. I wouldn't have to see any more. I would just see the ghost children and be like, again, see ya. Like that's. And finally, number 1, 0.0 Barks Lighthouse. There are plenty of lighthouses in Michigan, and plenty of them are rumored to be haunted, of course, because they're lighthouses and they're creepy, as they normally are. And this one is no exception. Built in 1847, real old, a lot of history with this one. The lighthouse is located on 0.0 Barks. As the legend goes, early to mid 1800s, Peter Shook had been 0.0 Barks' first lighthouse keeper. He was the OG. In 1849, Peter drowned while he and a couple of friends were sailing to Port Huron to pick up supplies for the Lighthouse. He left behind 8 kids and his wife, Catherine, and she took over at that point for Peter's duties, thus becoming Michigan's first female lighthouse keeper. Since then, people have claimed to see the spirit of Catherine walking along the edge of a cliff, dressed in mourning clothes, as she is still heartbroken by the loss of her lover, of course. As we talked about earlier, ghosts like to wear the things that they were, that they passed away in. Again, I would hate to be a clown outfit, that would suck. She had also been spotted in the window of the 2nd floor wearing an apron, along with an apparition being seen, footsteps ascending and descending the tower stairs, and giggling has also been heard. Yeah, you hear giggling and there's cold spots, therefore haunted, for sure haunted. And the smell of burnt tobacco has also been wafting through the air many a times. Lighthouses are pretty stressful, more than fair. When paranormal investigators, specifically the Southeast Michigan Paranormal Society team, when they had a 2-day intensive investigation after their search, they concluded that they believe that there is every reason for the lighthouse to be haunted. The investigators did some electric voice phenomenon work in the living room, and then they heard loud thuds from overheard. Like, where did they get this gear from, Like, I want this gear. I have some questions of myself going on in the apartment. I want to swing it around a bit. A sound of something scraping along the floor as well, and additionally, during their investigation, the rocking chair had moved 2 feet and was still moving. Just love to keep rocking around. We love that. We love haunted rocking chairs. We love unexplainable forces. While they were upstairs, they also reported hearing heavy footsteps from another unknown source. So many ghosts, there's rocking chairs, people moving around, working in the basement. It doesn't sound like the afterlife is a peaceful one, if I'm being honest. Sounds like there's a lot of to do after you die. I'm not really looking forward to it. I thought I could just kind of float around in your paintings, but now it sounds like I'm gonna have to go and wear this. Wear my morning clothes, who knows?
Starting with the Myrtles Plantation in St. Francisville, Louisiana. It's called one of America's most haunted homes, and honestly for good reason. At first glance, the Myrtles Plantation looks like a dreamy slice of Southern history, complete with moss-draped oaks and a wraparound porch. But don't let that charm fool you. This place is riddled with spirits. The most infamous ghost, well, Chloe. Legend says she was an enslaved woman punished for eavesdropping by having her ear cut off. In retaliation, she allegedly baked a poisonous cake that unalived 2 young girls. Now, she was sent to the gallows, and ever since, people claim she appears in a green turban near the old slave quarters. A photograph taken in 1992 reportedly shows her standing actually between 2 buildings, a photo many believe is authentic. But she's not the only one. Guests have reported hearing children giggling late at night only to find empty hallways and nobody even there. Mirrors in the house show handprints on them that actually won't wipe off, and a grand piano in the parlor plays by itself, and quite beautifully apparently, but also, as you can imagine, quite eerily as well. And some guests have fled basically in the middle of the night after seeing full body apparitions standing at the foot of their beds. They literally said, yeah, no thanks, I think I'm gonna head out now. Now, the Myrtles have over 200 years of tragic history, from mysterious passings to Civil War violence. Paranormal investigators have called it a hotbed of activity, with nearly every room said to have some sort of haunting. The LaLaurie Mansion, located in New Orleans in Louisiana. Even in a city known for its haunted past, the LaLaurie Mansion stands out as a nightmare frozen in time. Located in the heart of the French Quarter, which, if you're not familiar or never been to Mardi Gras, this is a paranormal super space riddled with paranormal activity. Anyway, this stately Creole mansion hides one of the most disturbing stories of cruelty and supernatural revenge in US history. Get ready and sit tight for this one, friends. Now, in the early 1800s, Madame Delphine LaLaurie was a socialite known for her wealth and influence, but also for the really horrific mistreatment of the enslaved people in her home. In 1834, a kitchen fire led authorities to the attic, where they discovered a secret torment chamber. Victims were found chained, mutilated, and barely alive. Some even reportedly had experimental surgeries performed on them. Can you imagine? I mean, I don't want to, but no wonder they're haunting the place, right? Now, the mansion was mobbed and burned, and LaLaurie fled to Paris. She was basically like, see ya, but the spirits of her victims never left, and I don't blame them. I mean, these goo-goos got some unfinished business with her, and they're standing on business, as they should, period. For nearly 2 centuries, residents and visitors alike have reported hearing just a bunch of crazy stuff, like wailing screams, phantom footsteps, and seeing shadowy figures kind of lurking in the upper windows. Now, some even say day, the ghost of Madame LaLaurie herself still haunts the house, trapped in her legacy of torment. Actor Nicolas Cage actually bought the mansion in 2007 and sold it just 2 years later. You don't say. Now, he never explained why, but insiders say he couldn't handle what was happening inside. I mean, I feel like that is just so on brand for Cage. I feel like I'm not even shocked that he bought it for some reason. I just feel like this is something he would do, honestly. I do love me some Nicolas Cage. I mean, fun fact, I have a pillow with his face on it. We call it Pillowless Cage. Anyway, the place is haunted, so don't visit, or do, and report back. The old state capitol located in Baton Rouge in Louisiana, so this place, it looks like a castle, and it's haunted like one too. I mean, the old state capitol in Baton Rouge is a stunning Gothic revival building perched on the Mississippi River, but behind the stained glass windows and spiral staircases lies a very long and eerie history. It was originally built in 1852. The building served as Louisiana's state house and witnessed everything from Civil War occupation to massive political upheaval. Now, it even burned down once and had to be rebuilt. But the real reason people say it's haunted, well, Pierre Quevillon, a fiery politician who passed away during a heated debate inside the chambers, apparently still roams the halls and rooms there and refuses to leave. Visitors claim he's still there. Now, many, if not almost all visitors, claim to have heard banging desks, slamming doors, and someone, likely Pierre, mumbling angrily in French. So I mean, most non-French speaking visitors don't actually know what he's saying. I mean, he could honestly just be recommending the best place close by to get a hot dog, but we'll never know. Or he's saying get out. I mean, that's also a really good high possibility. Now, staff and tourists have reported hearing phantom footsteps when the building is empty, unexplained cold drafts, and even lights flickering without any power issues. Now, the basement is particularly unsettling. Paranormal investigators have recorded EVPs, strange electromagnetic readings, and a persistent sense of just being watched. So basically, all things spooky that you would expect when visiting, well, you know, a spooky haunted place. If there's a checklist, this place ticks off every single box. It's now a museum, but employees refuse to work there alone after dark. I don't blame them. I mean, some claim the building itself seems to breathe, like it's alive and angry. I mean, that's kind of terrifying in itself. I don't want to go anywhere where a building is breathing. Like, what? Would you visit this place? Let me know. The old Chattahuchi State Hospital. Patients swore they saw faceless figures crawling along the walls at night. Nurses whispered of children crying in empty wards, and even decades after the hospital's closure, trespassers have come out pale, shaken, and swearing they heard voices in the halls. The Chattahuchi State Hospital, also known as Florida State Hospital, was once considered progressive when it opened in the 19th century, but by the 20th century, it gained a reputation as one of the darkest psychiatric facilities in the South. Reports surfaced of overcrowding so severe that patients were crammed into filthy rooms, chained to beds, or locked away in padded cells. Electroshock therapy and lobotomies were used regularly. Thousands of patients lived, and many passed away inside its walls. When parts of the hospital were finally shut down, the silence was worse than the chaos. Paranormal investigators say the atmosphere is crushing, like the building itself wants you gone. Cold spots move through the halls, even in the Florida heat, and voices whisper help and leave on EVP recordings. The underground tunnels, once used to discreetly transport patients, are considered the most terrifying. People who step inside describe overwhelming nausea, headaches, and in some cases, scratches appearing on their skin. Former staff have admitted that they themselves refuse to enter certain wards alone, even in broad daylight. Shadowy figures crossing hallways, objects moving on their own, and the constant feeling of being followed are so common that even skeptics walk out uneasy. Would you visit this place? Let me know. The Biltmore Hotel in Coral Gables. Now, firearm explosives rang out on the 13th floor of the Biltmore Hotel in 1929, and a mobster named Thomas Fatty Walsh ran out on the expensive carpet. Ever since, guests claim his ghost never left. Doors slam with no explanation, glasses clink in empty bars, and his shadowy figure has been seen in mirrors. The Biltmore wasn't just a hotel for Florida's elite. During World War II, it was converted into a military hospital. The luxurious ballrooms turned into operating rooms where young soldiers passed away on red liquid-stained floors. Now, after the war, the Biltmore went through years of abandonment. By the 1960s and 70s, its windows were shattered, the once grand lobby sat rotting, and graffiti marked the walls. But visitors claim the glamour hadn't faded entirely because the ghosts kept the hotel alive. Those who entered illegally during its abandoned years investigators described chandeliers swaying violently despite still air, stretchers rolling across dark hallways, and even phantom footsteps echoing down marble staircases. The sounds, of firearms going off are believed to be the echoes of Walsh's assassination, and they were reported so often that even local police stopped investigating. Some said the elevators would move on their own, opening to reveal no one, but reeking of cigar smoke, which was Walsh's signature scent. Now, when the Biltmore was eventually restored and reopened, the hauntings actually continued. Guests still check out early, saying they can't shake the feeling of being watched. Staff members admit that some rooms are harder to rent than others because of how often guests complain about seeing figures standing at the edge of the bed. That's terrifying. The Devil's School in Jacksonville. Now, they call it the Devil's School for a reason. Teens dared each other to break inside only to come running out screaming. Stories spread of a headless janitor who still roams the halls, children's screams echoing from the burned out basement, and satanic rituals performed inside the gymnasium. The real name of the school was Annie Lytle Elementary, built in 1917. Now, when it first opened, it was a proud, grand building with arched windows and a reputation as one of Jacksonville's most impressive schools. But by the 1960s, it had fallen into disrepair. Now, the neighborhood deteriorated, attendance dropped, and eventually the school was just shuttered. Now, once the children were gone, that's when the legends began. Locals whispered about satanic cults meeting there, and graffiti of, pentagrams and strange symbols appeared overnight. Homeless squatters claimed they were chased out by unseen forces. Fires broke out inside with no explanation at all, leading some to believe the building itself was just cursed. Paranormal investigators captured EVP recordings of children's laughter and cries for help despite the building being empty for decades. Urban explorers describe a sense of just suffocation the moment they step inside. Now, the windows are shattered, trees grow through cracks in the roof, and the smell of mold mixes with something more metallic, something like dried red liquid. Now, cameras malfunction regularly, batteries drain instantly, and even seasoned ghost hunters refuse to enter the basement, where the atmosphere is said to be just completely unbearable. Now, some say the spirits are the children who once studied there, trapped by tragedy. Others insist something darker moved in, maybe after their abandonment. Either way, the Devil's School has earned its reputation, clearly, as one of Florida's most haunted ruins. Poveglia Island in Italy, also known as the Island of the Damned. They say you can still hear the screams of the tormented souls who passed away here. Poveglia Island in Venice is completely off limits to tourists, and for good reason. It was used as a quarantine zone during the Black Plague, where over 160,000 infected people were sent there to pass away. Later, in the early 1900s, a psychiatric hospital was built on the island, where legend says a deranged doctor performed lobotomies and eventually threw himself off the bell tower after claiming he was being tormented by demons himself. Now, locals refuse to go near it. Fishermen won't even drop anchor nearby. It's still a haunted island to this day, so go at your own risk. Hoia Forest in Romania, the world's most haunted forest. People vanish without a trace inside this forest, and the ones who return aren't the same anymore. Now nicknamed the Bermuda Triangle of Transylvania, Hoia is considered one of the most haunted forests in the entire world. Locals believe it's cursed by demonic entities. Now, a 5-year-old girl who vanished for years reportedly came back wearing the same clothes and actually hadn't aged a day. It's like time stood still for her, and many believe it might have been a glitch in the Matrix, or maybe just a glitch in her timeline. Now, paranormal investigators claim to have seen glowing eyes, shadowy figures, and even been physically attacked. Romanian authorities have banned any overnight stays without special permission, so if I were you, I would stay away. The Aokigahara Forest in Japan. Now, they warn tourists not to leave the path, not because you'll get lost, but because something is waiting there. Now, Aokigahara Forest sits at the base of Mount Fuji and is so infamous for passings and spiritual activity that the government has banned tours in most parts. Japanese folklore believes the forest is filled with demons, which, are vengeful spirits. Now, park rangers report hearing haunting screams and finding tents with very strange symbols drawn inside. Locals believe evil entities live, or lure actually the depressed inside and feed on them. I believe this is actually the same spot that Logan Paul went to way back when, and he got in a lot of trouble for it if my memory serves me right, but let me know. The Chapel of the Bones in Portugal, a warning in skulls. Now inscribed above the doorway it says, "We bones that are here await yours." Talk about creepy, right? Now the Chapel of Bones in Evora looks like something straight out of a horror movie. Constructed in the 16th century by a monk, the walls are literally lined with over 5,000 human skulls and bones, but locals whisper the real reason it was built was to trap the demonic spirits that were tormenting the region. Now over the years, visitors have reported overwhelming nausea, hallucinations, and being followed by shadows that don't belong to anyone. Religious leaders have since restricted certain areas, claiming they've sealed off what should not have ever been touched. The Catacombs of Paris, now the demon beneath the city. In 2004, police found a hidden room with a full cinema, bar, and camera surveillance. The scary part? No one knows who built it. Now beneath the streets of Paris lies a 200-mile maze of tunnels filled with the bones of over 6 million people. Most of it is off limits, and for good reason. Explorers report hearing whispers, footsteps, and crying even when they're there alone. Some claim they were chased by something non-human. Now in one famous case, a video camera was found deep within the catacombs, dropped on the floor, and the last few minutes show someone running away in a panic, seemingly lost. That person was never identified. Huska Castle in the Czech Republic. Now a gateway to hell is what they call it. They didn't build this castle to keep people out. Nope, they built it to keep something inside. Huska Castle sits isolated in a Czech forest with no water source, no fortifications, and no strategic use at all. Why was it built? Well, according to legend, the site was a bottomless pit to hell. Locals reported winged demonic creatures flying out of it at night, and when it was being built, prisoners were offered pardons if they agreed to be lowered into the pit. The first man to actually ever go down reportedly started screaming within seconds of being there. When they finally pulled him up, his hair had turned white, and he actually passed away a few days later. Now the pit was eventually sealed beneath the chapel, and the castle has been closed off in parts ever since, so don't plan a trip there anytime soon. Eastern State Penitentiary in Philadelphia, USA. This penitentiary is often described as a scary and haunted place, both for its dark history and reported paranormal activity. It's known for its creepy atmosphere and unsettling history of brutal punishments and solitary confinement. Many visitors and paranormal investigators have reported experiencing strange occurrences, including ghostly sightings, unexplained noises, and feelings of unease. Once the world's most expensive prison from 1829, this Philadelphia facility boasted grand architecture, modern luxuries, and notorious inmates, including Al Capone. One of the first penitentiaries ever built, it combined impressive design and strict discipline to inspire regret and reform in the hearts of convicts. It's also known for its harsh and often cruel treatments of inmates, including solitary confinement, physical punishments, their mad chair, and psychological torment. Since its closure in 1971, the complex has crumbled into a mass of deteriorating cell blocks, which are now recognized as a National Historic Landmark. Eastern State Penitentiary is open to visitors year-round, so go check it out if you want. Lee Plaza Hotel in Detroit, USA. A staggering 60% of the city's peak population has now moved away, leaving behind a living example of urban decay. Its vacant state and history contribute to its reputation for being eerie and potentially really scary. The formerly luxurious Lee Plaza Hotel stands windowless and exposed. It is just one of Detroit's many abandoned places that mark the shocking decline of a major American city. Once at the center of a booming motor industry, the successive blows of economic recessions, competition from overseas, and race riots chipped away at Detroit's early prosperity. Winchester Mystery House in California, USA. A number of employees and a few visitors claim to have crossed paths with Clyde, a mustache man sometimes seen pushing a wheelbarrow in the basement or trying to repair the fireplace in the ballroom. Then there are the gentle tugs of shirts or skirts during tours, and the report from longtime maintenance worker Denny. It's safe to say this place is really haunted. Although damaged in the 1906 earthquake, the house is open to visitors who can actually explore the 160 surviving rooms. Eccentric and extravagant, this Victoria mansion in California is a maze of dead ends, secret doorways, and stairs that lead literally nowhere. Driven by paranoia and superstition, Sarah Winchester, widow of William Winchester, began building in 1884 and ordered that construction should never cease. In the 38 years until her passing, the residence mushroomed into a labyrinth of architectural oddities, 7 stories high. Bodie Ghost Town in California, USA, visitors and park rangers have reported seeing ghostly figures, hearing disembodied voices, and experiencing really other strange occurrences. Settled by prosecutors lured by the California gold rush in the mid-1800s, Bodie became a booming mining town of fortune-hungry men, saloon shootouts, and brawls. Now, its fortune was short-lived, however, and by the 1890s, gold strikes elsewhere had drawn the crowds away, causing the population to dwindle. Now, frozen in time, this ghost town became a national historical landmark in the 1960s. Now, tourists, not miners, flock here to walk the deserted streets and admire the town's arrested decline. Verosha, Cyprus, now an urban museum of corroding classic cars, destroyed high-rise hotels, and shop fronts boasting the latest in 1970s fashion for the deserted Verosha quarter in Famagusta City. Time froze in 1974. Now, following the Turkish invasion of Cyprus, Verosha's inhabitants were forced into a life of exile. Verosha has become a destination for very dark tourism, attracting visitors interested in exploring places with a somber or very tragic history, further contributing to its reputation as a place with a strong atmosphere. Once a favorite destination of the rich and the famous, people today can only peep through barbed wire as nature reclaims all of the buildings.
In at number 2 we have Schmidt Brewery. Schmidt Brewery became the largest in Minnesota by 1860, producing 1,200 barrels annually and shipping them as far south as Tennessee. It was restructured as the St. Paul Brewing Company in 1898 before being sold to Jacob Schmidt soon after in 1900. Since its opening in 1884, many ghost hunters have visited the Schmidt Brewery to experience some of the many rumored paranormal activities. The brewery has been the site of many constant unexplainable instances, from fires to people losing their lives to terrible accidents. This place has seen a lot of scary sights, while the victims of these events linger around to haunt the grounds of the brewery. Even though the building is now used as an artist's loft, that doesn't take away the scary history of the Schmidt Brewery. While most of the ghosts that haunt the grounds of the old brewery have to do with ordinary brewery workers dying in terrible accidents, in 1896 2 workers lost their lives in an explosion. Furthermore, in 1902 a worker fell down an unmarked elevator shaft. Additionally, in 1904 Matthew Colo, a worker whose job was to light gas lamps in the brewery, lost his life from inhaling flames. Schmidt Brewery has been a St. Paul haunt since 1855 for more than a couple of reasons, when owner Jacob Schmidt took down the original North Star Brewery sign, replacing it with his namesake, Jacob Schmidt Brewing Company. The entire brewery burned down a year later in 1900. Plenty of other bad luck would also follow on the grounds of the brewery, suspected due to the tragic death of many workers of the brewery. And finally, in at number 1 we have Forepaugh Restaurant. Known as the most haunted restaurant in Minnesota, the Forepaugh has a tragic story. Located in St. Paul, Forepaugh was a high-end restaurant located in Irvine Park, and the restaurant is a beautiful Victorian mansion. Sadly though, the restaurant is now permanently closed. The dark stories about Forepaugh Restaurant hint that the historic mansion is seriously haunted. As the story goes, back in the late 1800s, Joseph Forepaugh had an affair with the mansion's maid, Molly. It was not long before his wife discovered this relationship and love for Mary. Therefore, the wife became extremely jealous of the servant and assigned Molly to do chores that would keep her away from the bedrooms and away from Joseph. Molly became pregnant and Joseph ended the affair, but Molly was so distraught about the whole situation that she ended her life. According to reports, she ended her life in the attic. Joseph was upset when he heard the news about Molly that he figured he could not stay in the house where his beloved died. One day he went out for a walk and ended his life as well. Since then, restaurant guests and employees have reported creepy sightings of a woman dressed in 1800s attire, lights turning off and on by themselves, and strange noises coming from the attic. In one case, the disturbances were so chaotic that led to an investigation by the St. Paul police, whose canine dog refused to enter the attic. It is said that Joseph and Molly both haunt Forepaugh, but many guests have said Molly is more active spirit. People say they have seen the two walking around the dining area, but Molly bangs on walls and smashes glasses. Some people say they can smell her lavender perfume. That being said, Mr. Forepaugh is also sometimes seen, and his ghost has been reported wearing a dark waistcoat, silk vest, pinstripe trousers, and a derby hat. He can be seen going to the basement, at which time the lights flicker and shuffling noises are heard. He roams the house and has been caught on film many times. The former staff of the restaurant have also reported on many occasions when they would go floor by floor turning off lights as they closed down out for the night. Then when the staff members get in their cars to leave, they'll notice the top floor light is on. Nevertheless, if the restaurant is haunted, the story of Mr. Forepaugh and Molly is one of the most devastating to date.
The Dera Jail, located in Dera, Louisiana. Locals call it the hanging jail, and the name itself, isn't just for show. In 1928, 2 men convicted of executing a taxi driver were sent to the scaffold right inside the jail to be taken out, which was, at the time, a very rare and brutal public execution that set the tone for the building's eerie legacy. Now, the jail was built in 1914 and has been abandoned for decades, but investigators and visitors swear it's anything but empty. Cold spots, disembodied voices, ghostly apparitions have been reported throughout the decaying cells. Now, some visitors say they hear a woman weeping softly near cell number 3, despite the jail never having housed any female inmates. So my guess would be like a widow, maybe a girlfriend, a mother. I don't know. I'm just trying to run through like what would make the most sense as to why a woman would go and hang out there, but whatever. The actual hanging chamber remains intact, complete with the original trapdoor and lever. Now, paranormal groups have documented strange electromagnetic spikes in the gallows room and caught shadowy figures darting across camera lenses. So imagine, if you will, like a typical jump scare in your favorite scary movie. If that's not enough, during one overnight tour, a man claimed he actually felt someone grab his ankle and there was no one near him. Another visitor collapsed in the gallows room, later saying she felt like someone was trying to pull her down with them. Oh my god, the horror, just imagine. Now remind me to never go visit there. I'm good on that one, thanks. St. Louis Cemetery number 1 in New Orleans, Louisiana. Now, New Orleans has plenty of haunted cemeteries, as you'd imagine, but St. Louis Cemetery number 1, founded in 1789, is the crown jewel of the departed. It's the final resting place of Marie Laveau, the infamous Voodoo queen, whose power still terrifies skeptics and believers alike. Speaking on this queen, in case you don't know anything at all about her, well, she was a real historical figure, a big deal, a Creole woman who practiced a mix of, Catholicism and Voodoo in the 1800s and was known for her healing, spiritual readings, as well as rumored curses. Now, since her passing in 1881, people claim to have seen her wandering between the tombs, wearing a red and white headscarf and clutching a snake. Very specific and also very creepy, right? Visitors leave, offerings as a way to appease her and basically hope she doesn't attack them or curse them. I mean, many people leave like lipstick, rum, coins, etc. And they also do this though to ask for favors, but disrespect her grave, and it's said she'll follow you. Like, not just around the premises, no, she'll follow you home. One tourist reportedly kicked over an offering and later woke up at home with scratch marks on his back and bruises in the shape of fingers. Even seasoned tour guides refuse to walk certain rows alone. Other graves in the cemetery also hold secrets. Phantom figures are seen peeking out from behind tombs, and multiple guests have caught orbs and strange mists on camera, especially around dusk. Now, this place sounds like something straight out of my nightmares. I feel like I've been there before, again, in a nightmare. I don't think I care to visit in person, so if you do, let me know how that goes, and remember not to disrespect her. Maybe bring some lipstick, maybe MAC or like a YSL one. Dollar brand won't get you anywhere with her. These are not just ghost stories, they're pieces of Louisiana's haunted soul, etched into walls, buried in crypts, and whispered across centuries. So if you ever find yourself near one of these places, maybe think twice before stepping inside, because in Louisiana, the departed don't rest, they remember. Ryang Hotel in Pyongyang, now unoccupied, unopened, and never finished, and often called the Hotel of Doom or the Ghost Hotel due to its unfinished state and eerie appearance. This 105-story shell of the Ryang Hotel is a scar on Pyongyang's skyline and North Korea's pride. Construction on the hotel began in 1987, but stopped after 5 years due to just a lack of funds. Once proudly, emblazoned across North Korean stamps, this vacant hotel soon became airbrushed out of official photos. The Ryang was intended to be a symbol of North Korea's strength and architectural, prowess. Its failure to materialize as a functioning hotel has made it a symbol of the country's economic struggles and isolation. The hotel's imposing presence and mysterious history have led to it being featured in numerous articles, documentaries, even online discussions, fueling speculation and contributing to its haunted aura. Now, despite nearly, 2 decades of abandonment, construction actually resumed in 2008, but whether the hotel will ever be completed is open to debate. San Juan, Michoacan in Mexico, beginning in 1943, successive eruptions of the Paracutan volcano slowly engulfed houses, streets, and livelihoods, masking all signs of life under a black cloak of molten rock and ash, leaving behind ruins, particularly the church, partially buried in lava and ash. Now, defiantly protruding from a desolate landscape of ash and lava, this church tower is all that remains of the devastated village of San Juan. Now, this makes it a site of historical interest and a stark reminder of nature's power, attracting visitors who find it both awe-inspiring and melancholic. Now, today, tourists drawn to this isolated ruin can marvel at the still intact, though vacant, altar inside. Now, the desolate and surreal landscape, combined with the story of a town buried by a volcano, evokes a sense of just melancholy and wonder and a little bit of haunted. Kalyazin, Russia, now boldly rising 75 meters above the waterline, the bell tower of the flooded St. Nicholas Church marks the site where the Russian town of Kalyazin once stood. When the Ulik Reservoir was created in 1939, the town was, purposely flooded and the landscape was irreplaceably altered. Now, attracted to the simplistic beauty of the remaining, landmark, tourists visiting on boats can actually explore this enduring landmark of the sunken town, although many believe it is cursed and haunted, so they stay away just to be safe. ZKP Tagansky in Moscow, Russia. Now, since its declassification in 1995, Bunker 42 has drawn many visitors keen to delve into the secrets of the past. Some people who have visited find the bunker's dark underground environment and historical context has created a sense of unease or even eeriness, and many people have claimed to have felt a very off-putting presence that they can't seem to explain. Hidden 60 meters below the streets of Moscow lies, the ZKP Tagansky, also known again as Bunker 42. Now, it is a former Soviet secret military facility in Moscow and a 7,000 square meter space which once served as a secret Cold War's era communication center. Now, built in the 1950s, this vast complex was designed to withstand a direct nuclear attack and filled with enough supplies to stay running for months afterwards. Presidio Modelo in Cuba. Presidio Modelo in Cuba is known for its very harsh history as a prison, particularly during its use in the 1950s. The prison, with its panopticon design, housed many political prisoners, including Fidel Castro and his brother Raul. Empty since 1967, this prison still radiates desperation and paranoia. Commissioned in 1926 by dictator Gerardo Machado and inspired, by this model, its oppressive architecture and designed to create a sense of constant invisible monitoring. Even though Fidel Castro was once an inmate here, under Castro's government, the prison's population ballooned to over 6,000 enemies of the state. Now, museum visitors can experience the forbidding atmosphere still present in these echoing corridors and vacant cells. These are some demonic places where the devil lives, so let's dig into it. The demon that crawls out of the well. This is the real Hellgate of Stull, Kansas. People who grew up near Stull, Kansas swear they've seen something crawl out of the abandoned well behind the old church, something with horns, crawling on all fours, dragging its claws through the dirt, and the terrifying part, well, every single eyewitness story sounds the same. No contradictions, no exaggerations, just the same creature, the same smell of sulfur, and the same sense that the ground itself was alive. Welcome to Stull Cemetery, one of the most infamous gateways to hell in America. It's a title it didn't earn through TikTok ghost hunters or clickbait documentaries. No, this reputation goes back over a century, and it's rooted in real newspaper reports, police records, and decades of local warnings. The original church that was built in the 1860s was already feared by settlers who said the structure was built on cursed land. The ground was used earlier by German immigrants who performed very strange burial rituals, and before them, the region was known to local tribes for a wind demon that supposedly lived underground. But the story that made Stull infamous happened in 1974 when students from the University of Kansas published reports claiming that the devil himself appears in the cemetery twice a year, once on Halloween and once in the spring equinox. Now, sounds like an urban legend, right? Well, except police started receiving calls from drivers who saw a tall, horned figure standing in the road at night only to vanish when headlights hit it. Officers investigated multiple times, and while they never released public statements, they did begin blocking off the cemetery every Halloween for over 30 years. You don't shut down an entire town cemetery unless something scared law enforcement, right? Now, locals described hearing growls coming from the collapsed church, even though no animals were ever found inside. The well behind the church, now filled and covered with concrete, was known as the Demon Well. People said if you stood near it too long, you'd hear your own own name whispered back at you in a voice that you didn't recognize. And here's the part even skeptics can't explain. Photographers who tried documenting the church before it was torn down had their cameras fail basically repeatedly. Batteries drained instantly, film came back blank, and one reporter working on a story in the early 1990s claimed something shoved him so hard inside the church that he actually cracked a rib. Yet there were no footprints around him in the dirt. So, if the devil lives anywhere, locals will tell you that it's Stull. And based on the number of people who refuse to drive past it after sunset, they honestly might not be wrong about that. The real Amityville horror. Now, before Hollywood turned it into a franchise and skeptics turned it into a debate, the Amityville horror was a real case investigated by actual paranormal researchers, journalists, and police. And the original reports are genuinely some of the most terrifying ever documented. But the part most people don't know, visitors who enter the house today who have never seen the movie and know nothing about the story, they still report the same sensations the Lutz family described in 1975. Pressure on the chest, the feeling of being watched from the stairs, and a sudden overwhelming smell of rotten perfume. The house only became infamous after Ronald DeFeo Jr. unalived his entire family there in 1974. Now, his parents and 4 siblings all hid in their beds, but the creepy detail investigators could never explain was this: every family member was found face down and none of the neighbors heard the blasts, even though a rifle was used with no silencer. So not a single person woke up or moved. The Lutz family moved in just 13 months later. They lasted 28 days. Now they reported, black stains seeping from walls, sudden temperature drops, and a swarm of flies that appeared in the middle of winter. George Lutz said something woke him every day at 3:15 a.m., the exact time DeFeo unalived his family. Creepy, right? Their daughter began speaking to an invisible entity named Jody, described as a large red-eyed pig-like creature that watched her from the window. Neighbors reported seeing the same glowing red eyes outside at night. Investigators later brought in demonologist Ed and Lorraine Warren, who claimed the house was overrun with inhuman entities. Now, Lorraine described it as a vortex of evil unlike anything she had ever felt. She refused to enter the basement, insisting the presence inside was just not human. Even after the Lutz family left, contractors, real estate agents, and journalists who visited the house experienced things they still refused to talk about publicly. One professional photographer fainted on the staircase, woke up with deep scratches on his arms, and here's the viral part. Recent owners who insist nothing paranormal has happened still refuse to let investigators inside and refuse to acknowledge certain rooms. So if nothing is going on, why all the secrecy, huh? The Island of the Dolls. If you want to know what it feels like to walk straight into a nightmare, well, go visit the Island of the Dolls in Mexico. But here's the part people never talk about. Multiple visitors have reported hearing a girl crying in the trees, even though no children live anywhere near the island. Now, this place wasn't built for tourists. It was the life's obsession of a man named Don Julian Santana, who moved to the island alone in the 1950s. Shortly after arriving, he found the body of a young girl who had drowned in the canal. Days later, he claimed he saw her spirit soaking wet wandering through the trees at night. He was terrified, so he hung an old doll he found kind of floating in the water as an offering, a way to calm her spirit. But the crying continued, the footsteps continued, the whispers continued, so he hung another doll up, and another, and another, and another, and soon the island was just covered in hundreds of dolls, rotting, sun-bleached, missing limbs, eyes staring blankly into the swamp. Visitors in the 70s and 80s reported seeing dolls turn their heads or open their eyes. Some said the dolls whispered at night, others claimed the girls' ghosts followed them actually back to their boats. But the scariest part in all this, in 2001, Don Julian was found deceased in the exact same spot where he had found the young girl decades earlier. Locals said the girl had finally taken him. After his passing, paranormal researchers visited the island and recorded audio of a child's voice saying basically that said ven, which is Spanish for come. Others caught EVPs sounding like dolls giggling, and if you want, the truly haunting detail, some investigators left with bite marks on their legs, even though no animals were present.
Number 5 on this list is the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. Operating from 1864 to 1994, this asylum, like most of the entries on this list, has certainly been through the ringer. This place was meant to only house 250 people at its max, but on many occasions had over 2,400 people residing here. Everyone was crammed in like animals, and considering this building was never meant to see this many patients at once, the living conditions were pretty horrible. Whenever you cram that many people into a small space together, especially an asylum, asylum, some pretty nasty things will go down as well. Several murders have taken place here over the years, along with incidents of patients and workers taking their own life. The haunting of this location was pretty progressive and didn't come on all at once. Reports date back to the early 1900s and got increasingly more frequent as time went on. Eventually it became clear by the later 1900s that this was no longer a usable space and they needed to move on. This is why it shut down in 1994 and has no medical purpose at this point. In fact, now the only thing that it has is ghost tours. The owner of this place know the legends are far stretching with this asylum and intend to make a profit on it. The ghosts are decently friendly here, or at least for the most part aren't dangerous. However, there have been a few instances where individuals have been scared to a point of serious and significant trauma. If you do plan to go here, then make sure you have a thick skin and aren't frightened easily. Number 4 on this list is Haunted Harper's Ferry. Harper's Ferry is a small town in West Virginia that honestly looks like something out of a storybook. It's comprised of roughly 100 19th century restored buildings. As you can imagine, it's a very quiet town and there isn't too much of a big city vibe going on here at all. This place wasn't always quiet though. In the American Civil War, this town played a pivotal role and was fought over multiple times throughout the years. People believe that it was through the death during the Civil War that this place has developed an affinity to spirits. Deborah Block says, at the nearby True Treats historic candy store, chocolate and other candies are brightly lit on tables and in baskets. The cute and welcoming shop is popular with visitors, hardly seeming like a place where a ghost would want to hang out. But store manager Tara Dockman, known as the Ghost Lady, in town for her sensitivity to paranormal activity, says there are 2 ghosts who frequent the store and she even knows one of them by name. The female has a white flowy gown and she goes to the top floor of the store where there are no customers, she explained. And Colby, a man, likes to show himself and usually shows a shoulder or a pants leg which you'll see walk across a room. They both like to throw candy around and slam doors on customers. Dockman said Colby is a troublemaker who may also push people. She assured me that she had spoken to him about not bothering me while I was in the shop and was hiding in a corner storage area. Tara isn't some nutbag who's the only one who sees ghosts here either. Tons of people in the town have had run-ins with them. In fact, the biggest attraction this town has to offer are the ghost tours that highlight how haunted this place truly is. Number 3 on this list is Lake Shawnee Amusement Park. The park is no longer functional, and based on all of the incidents that went down here, that's probably a good thing. It all started in the 1700s when a settler, Mitchell Clay, and the local Shawnee Native Americans fought and ended with 3 of Clay's dying and lots of Shawnee warriors passing away as well. This was the inciting incident of the tragic movie that is Lake Shawnee Amusement Park. Also, 200 years later in the 1920s, this land was bought and turned into an amusement park. The buyer wasn't aware of this history though and didn't realize the dark mark that had been left here by that battle so many years ago. There were a decent amount of tragic incidents that went down here while the amusement park was operational, but there are 2 that stand out as being the most stunning. The first one involved a young girl on the swings. While she was on the swings, a delivery truck, without seeing her, backed straight into her and she passed away. The second one involved someone who drowned in the swimming pool because their arm got stuck in the drain. The amusement park had seen enough and shut down in 1966. It was roughly 20 years later that they discovered the history of this place and pieced it all together, assuming that a curse must have been responsible. Locals don't dare go to this place anymore for fear of this curse. It should also be noted that the few who have stepped foot on this place again have reported run-ins with that young girl who died so many years ago. It seems that this curse won't allow her spirit to pass on and now she wanders the area. I'm sure that there are a bunch of other amusement parks in West Virginia that are a lot more fitting and functional than this one. Highly recommend avoiding Lake Shawnee altogether.
The Dozier School for Boys. Now, few abandoned places in Florida carry a history as horrifying as the Dozier School for Boys. Now, survivors describe it as as a nightmare of attacks, torment, and demise. And when the truth was uncovered, investigators found nearly 100 bodies buried in hidden graves there. The school operated for more than 100 years in Marianna, Florida. It was actually meant to be a reform school, a place where troubled boys could be rehabilitated. Instead, it became infamous for brutal, attacks, forced labor, and very cruel punishments. Former students, describe being taken to a small white building known as the White House, where guards whipped them until, they were leaking, of red liquid, which we know what that is. Sometimes until they actually lost consciousness. Now, some boys never came out at all. When the state finally investigated in the 2000s, they discovered a secret graveyard. Dozens of unmarked graves held the remains of boys who had disappeared. Many were never identified, their families never told the truth, so we don't know who these boys are. Today, the school remains, it stands as one of the darkest abandoned places in not only Florida, but all of America. Paranormal reports are overwhelming, disembodied voices, chains dragging across the ground, and cries in the distance. Some visitors claim they've been touched or even grabbed by invisible hands. EVP recordings capture chilling words like help and stop and please don't leave. Even skeptics admit the site feels very cursed. Investigators describe heavy, very oppressive air that grows worse near that whole, White House building. Cameras often pick up orbs as well, streaks of light and shadows moving where no one is even standing. I mean, survivors say it doesn't surprise them. The boys who passed away there never got any justice at all. So of course, their spirits may still be crying out for help. Stiltsville in Biscayne Bay. Now, in the middle of Biscayne Bay, 7 ghostly houses balance on wooden stilts above the water. Once, they were actually alive with illegal gambling, wild parties, and mafia connections, which sounds kind of fun, right? Not really. Today, they're silent ruins. Locals say the ghosts of Stiltsville haven't left. They're still there partying in the dark. Maybe we should go check it out. Stiltsville began in the 1930s as a hidden playground for the wealthy and the rich. Now, rumors spread of high-stakes poker games, secret deals, but also very violent disputes that ended, in you know what. By the 1950s, Stiltsville had grown into a thriving offshore village known as much for its lawlessness as its exclusivity. But nature had other plans, of course. Hurricanes repeatedly battered the houses, sweeping many into the sea, and by the 1990s, only a handful remained. Today, the skeletal remains of those houses rise eerily out of the bay. I mean, you can see them. Fishermen report strange lights flickering in the windows, even though no electricity runs through them at all. Boaters hear music drifting across the waves, jazz and swing tunes from an era long gone. I mean, they're still partying there. Some claim they've seen figures standing on the docks kind of waving, only to vanish as the boat draws closer. Paranormal investigators believe the energy of Stiltsville comes from the combination of its violent past and its watery graveyard of ruined homes. Some boats have reported being, chased down by glowing lights at night, as if something is still kind of guarding the bay there. The location is remote and isolated, which of course only adds to its ghostly aura. To this day, few dare to explore the houses after dark. So let me know, which abandoned place in Florida would you visit if you were brave enough? Let me know. Thanks for watching. I'm your host, Ashley. I'll see you later. These dark amusement parks are hiding more than just old rusty roller coasters. Nope, they're hiding pure evil, so let's take a look into them. Lake Shawnee Amusement Park. This is the playground of doom. A little girl in a bright pink dress was riding her favorite attraction, the simple spinning, swing set. When tragedy struck, she was laughing one moment, and the next she was crushed by a delivery truck that backed into the ride while it was still in motion. Witnesses claimed her body flew several feet before collapsing to the ground. She was only one of at least 6 people who passed away at Lake Shawnee Amusement Park in Princeton, West Virginia, a place so cursed that locals now call it the Playground of Doom. But here's the chilling part. This land was doomed long before the rides were even built. In the late 1700s, it was the site of a very bad annihilation where a Native American tribe basically unalived a settler family for stealing their land. The Screaming Tunnel in Ontario, Canada. If you think ghosts are quiet, sad little souls floating around in white sheets, think again. This haunting isn't just heard, it screams back. And it happens in a cold stone tunnel under a rural railroad line near Niagara Falls, Ontario. A tunnel so haunted that people have been physically physically attacked inside it on camera. The Screaming Tunnel is one of Canada's most disturbing legends, but unlike most folklore, this one has footage, real shaky, terrifying footage captured by hikers, ghost hunters, and teenage thrill seekers who've returned from the tunnel change. Built in the early 1900s, the tunnel was originally a drainage passage for the Grand Trunk Railway, but over time, it picked up a reputation so terrifying that even locals refused to go near it at night. Ask them why, and they'll tell you the story. A girl once ran into the tunnel to escape a fire, her clothes burning, her lungs filling with smoke. She passed away inside the tunnel, and now they say if you light a match inside, her scream shatters the silence as her spirit relives her last moments. A scary story, sure, but that doesn't explain what happened on October 14, 2015, when a paranormal investigation channel filmed inside the tunnel and captured a scream so powerful and clear that experts later analyzed the audio and ruled it out that it was human. No joke. Audio technicians analyzed the waveform of this scream basically captured in the tunnel and concluded the pitch and the reverb did not behave like human vocal frequencies inside a tunnel that size. So in other words, it sounded real, but also impossible. The microphones began to distort, not from wind, not from interference, but from something blocking the sound waves, like invisible pressure in the tunnel itself. Then it happened. One investigator lighted a match, and just like the legend says, in that exact second, something screams from the darkness, not from behind them, ahead of them, deep inside the tunnel. And this scream, it does not fade like a normal sound. It actually cuts off abruptly, like something standing right in front of them just closed its mouth. The Demon of the Sally House. This is in Kansas. Now, some hauntings are tragic, some are restless, but this house, it's a little different. This haunting draws horror. The Sally House in Kansas looks normal from the outside completely, a two-story family home on a quiet street, but watch the footage recorded inside and you'll understand why investigators don't call it haunted, they call it predatory. Now, the legend starts with a 6-year-old girl named Sally who supposedly passed on during a botched emergency surgery in the home during the 1900s. Locals say she brought to the town doctor who lived in the house screaming in pain from appendicitis. The story goes that the doctor panicked and began cutting before the anesthesia took hold. Now, Sally woke up mid-surgery, terrified of course, and then passed away on the table. The urban legend claims she now haunts the house. Cute ghost story, right? Well, except the haunting in this house is not a little girl, and the video evidence proves it. Most people first heard of the Sally House from the 1900s when a young couple named Tony and Deborah Pickman moved in. Deborah reported lights flickering, toys moving, cold spots, classic, haunting signs. But Tony, well, he was targeted physically, violently, and in multiple videos recorded by the Sightings TV crew. Tony can be seen actually being scratched in real time, deep red claw-like marks appearing across his stomach and chest while cameras are rolling. No CGI, no practical effects or efforts. You can actually watch his skin open up on camera as he screams in confusion and pain. In one clip from 1993, an investigator asked Tony what he's feeling. Tony says, "Something's behind me." He pulls up his shirt and 3 scratches appear from nowhere, trailing down his back like something raked him from shoulder to spine. The number 3 is significant in demonology. I mean, the number of mockery meant to insult the Holy Trinity. That's not a child spirit. That's not a harmless haunting. That's aggression. Professional paranormal investigators from the Atlantic Paranormal Society, Ghost Adventures, and private demonologists have attempted to cleanse the house. Every team reports the exact same thing. Not a ghost, not Sally, something else entirely. The EVPs captured inside the Sally House are among the most disturbing ever recorded. Voices, raspy, male, angry, growling, get out, mine, hurt, and most chilling of all, them hearing them say, "Unalive Tony," unalive them. It uses Tony's name. I mean, animals refuse to even enter the house. Dogs brought in by researchers whine at the threshold. I mean, one rescue dog broke free, dragging its handler away from the front door and refusing to return. Experts say that kind of behavior only happens around aggressive predators. So tell me, what exactly stalks people inside that house? Some investigators believe the little girl story is the distraction. They believe something darker uses the Sally persona to lure people in. Think about it. I mean, what do ghost hunters go crazy for? Child spirits, right? Emotional stories, tragedy, it's bait. Hundreds of people walk right towards it. Tony and Deborah Pickman eventually did flee the home, refusing to step foot inside ever again. Tony said in a very rare interview, "It didn't just follow us, it lived inside me. I could feel it watching through my own eyes." Now, the footage from inside the Sally House remains some of the most analyzed paranormal video evidence ever. The only thing scarier than the evidence is that the house is still open to rent. It's still active. It's still attacking still there waiting for more people, and it just hasn't stopped. So if you're looking for somewhere to live, go check it out.
Number 2 on this list is West Virginia Penitentiary. Would this really be a most haunted place list if we didn't throw a prison on here? Paranormal activity usually favors places that have seen a lot of tragedies and sadness, and this penitentiary has definitely had its fair share. This prison opened up in the 1860s and was active for 119 years before finally being shut down. In that time, it saw over 100 executions, countless riots where people were either severely injured or died, fires, and an insane amount of human rights violations. All of this has led to what we have now, which is just a really haunted prison. Though the prisoners are gone, they're not forgotten, and by many accounts, the ghosts of some of the 998 men who died here still roam free. There's a shadow man that has been seen and even photographed. Staff of the prison have been accosted by unseen forces. Strange noises still echo throughout the cell blocks, and something dark lurks in the bowels of the building. That was a small passage from Moundsville Haunted History, who are familiar with the prison. 998 men though. That's how many different individuals are thought to potentially haunt this place. That's literally a full-on ghost army right there, guys. This place must have been horrible if that many people's souls are left wandering around this space. If I was the owner of this spot, I'd do those 998 people a favor and just knock this place to the ground. Maybe then these ghosts can finally rest. And finally, number 1 on this list is Point Pleasant. This has got to be the top spot on our list just considering the amount of lore surrounding the creature here. The Mothman. If you're watching videos on this channel, then I imagine you're already probably familiar with what this creature is, but for those who aren't, the Mothman is a humanoid creature reportedly seen in the Point Pleasant area from November 15th, 1966 to December 15th, 1967. Shayla Klein says, according to legend, Mothman is a black 10-foot creature with wings and red eyes. Articles and newspapers at the time were reporting that the monster was also commonly seen in the TNT area near town, with some locals speculating that perhaps people were really seeing cranes or owls, and others wondering if the creature was created in some sort of mutation accident involving the chemicals associated with storing TNT. Regardless, legend has it that mysterious men in black suits began visiting the town shortly after the sighting reports. The most infamous sighting of Mothman was on December 15th, 1967. Locals said that they saw Mothman on top of or flying over the Silver Bridge, which was a suspension bridge over the Ohio River that connected Point Pleasant, West Virginia, to Gallipolis, Ohio. According to Mothman lore, shortly after the creature was spotted on the bridge collapsed, resulting in the deaths of 46 people. An investigation into the disaster found that a fracture in a suspension chain was the cause. This is one of the most famous American urban legends ever. The amount of people who saw this creature during this period of time, and the fact that high-ranking secret officials started to investigate it, all point to its legitimacy. It was active for about a year and then just totally disappeared though, and nobody knows what happened to it. The leading theory is that the government was able to capture whatever it was and probably took it to a secret base to study it. If that's the case, then Point Pleasant is most likely safe now, but be wary of what's flying over top of you if you do decide to go here.
The Brown Lady of Raynham Hall. Now this is in Norfolk, England. Some ghosts flicker in and out of blurry cell phone footage. This one posed for a photograph and became the most famous apparition ever captured. Newspapers tried to dismiss it, skeptics tried to debunk it, but nearly a century later the footage keeps stacking up and the Brown Lady of Raynham Hall refuses to disappear. Now Raynham Hall is a 17th century country estate in England, quiet, elegant, the definition of old world royalty. But behind the portraits and chandeliers is a haunting, so historic that even King George claimed to see the ghost himself. The legend begins with Lady Dorothy Walpole, sister of Britain's first prime minister. Now in 1713, Dorothy secretly married a very wealthy nobleman named Charles Townshend, known for his violent temper and jealousy. When he discovered she had once been involved with another man before marrying him, he snapped and lost it. He locked her inside Raymond Hall, isolated from the world, world, telling family that she had just simply passed away. But she didn't pass away immediately. She lived inside that house for another decade, trapped in there, cut off from her children, forbidden to leave. I mean, when she finally passed, some say, executed, others say from smallpox. I mean, she never left the hall. It's very much giving like Beauty and the Beast gone wrong. Now, for centuries, guests reported seeing a sorrowful woman, kind of in a brown satin dress, drifting through the property. Her face was gray, eyes hollow, but then something changed. Her presence grew stronger, more aggressive, and in 1936, she was actually caught on camera during a photo shoot for Country Life magazine. Photographers Captain Provent and Andre Shira were taking interior shots of the mansion's grand staircase. When the photo was developed, a translucent form glided down the staircase wearing a brown period gown. This wasn't a blur or dust smudge, it was a structured apparition with depth. The photo was examined by the Society for, Physical or Psychic Research and later by Kodak and other photography experts. Now, multiple tests concluded just deceased. No evidence or exposure, no double exposure, no signs of tampering, no chemical manipulation, and there was no stage composition. The conclusion basically inconclusive but authentic. So the capture remains one of the most heavily studied, ghost photos in the world. But whatever happened in that house, Dorothy is still there, so none of that worked, and it's clear she does not want visitors. So which haunted place would you visit if you had the chance? Let me know. Thanks for watching. I'm your host, Ashley. I'll see you in the next one. Vampires are not supposed to be real. They belong to the shadows of horror novels, the flickering reels of black and white films, and the costumes we laugh at on Halloween. Yet history, folklore, and eyewitness accounts insist otherwise. These tales will make you question the safety of your own shadow. The Highgate Vampire, London's Hunter. Now, in the 1970s, London's Highgate Cemetery became the setting of one of the most infamous modern vampire legends. It began with a series of sightings and grave desecrations that terrified locals. Witnesses described a tall, gaunt figure dressed in black with fiery red eyes and a face both skeletal and human, seen roaming the cemetery at night. People claim they felt a very oppressive, cold presence that made their skin basically crawl and hearts pound. The Wendingo Cave of Northern Ontario. If you believe demons only haunt old houses or creepy cemeteries, you're wrong. Northern Ontario has a story for you. Now, this is one that native tribes were telling long before colonizers ever arrived, and it starts with the kind of creature that doesn't just scare you, it hunts you. Deep in the forest of the Canadian Shield sits a mining region known as Wendingo Mine. Now, named because workers reported seeing a tall skeletal creature with glowing eyes watching them from the tree line. This wasn't folklore to them. These were miners who physically described the same thing without ever speaking to each other. The legend of the Wendingo comes from the Algonquin tribes who believed a demonic spirit could possess a person through hunger, isolation, or grief, turning them into a violent cannibalistic creature with an insatiable appetite. But the version haunting the mine wasn't spiritual. Miners claimed it was real and physical. Throughout the early 1900s, workers reported missing tools, strange claw marks in the tunnels, voices calling their names from deep shafts that had already collapsed, and several miners were found deceased in sections of the mines with no signs of injury, just pure terror frozen on their faces. One diary entry from 1911 described a creature as tall as the support beams, with ribs sticking out of its chest and a mouth too wide to be human. Another wrote that the creature would mimic the voices of lost miners to lure others deeper into the dark. Now, by 1920, the mine was abandoned. The remaining workers refused to go underground after 3 men disappeared in a single week, and their bodies were never found, by the way. When modern explorers visited the site, they report hearing growls, footsteps, clicking sounds, echoes throughout the tunnels, something known in, indigenous lore as the Wendingo's hunting call. The Hoia Baciu Forest in Romania. Now, if hell has a forest, it's in Romania. Now, this forest, often called the Bermuda Triangle of Transylvania, has terrified soldiers, hikers, scientists, and even paranormal researchers who refuse to ever return. It all began with a girl who vanished in the woods, only to reappear 5 years later without aging a single day. That story is real. Police documented it. A young girl disappeared while playing near the tree line in the 1960s. Search teams basically combed the forest for weeks and found nothing. Then 5 years later, she walked out. Same dress, same hairstyle, same age, completely unaware that any time had passed. After that event, the forest became a hotspot for the impossible. Visitors report feeling watched by something intelligent and hostile. Electronics malfunction instantly. Trees grow unnaturally twisted, like they're kind of recoiling away from something in the center of the forest. The strangest location is a perfect circle of deceased vegetation called the clearing, where nothing grows, no grass, no moss, not even weeds. Soil samples have been studied repeatedly completely. Scientists found no logical explanation for why a perfect sphere of nature is deceased while everything around it thrives. Romanian locals refuse to enter after dark, swearing the forest contains non-human entities. People hear giggling, screaming, footsteps, something that sounds like heavy breathing just inches behind them. Multiple hikers report arriving at one side of the forest and then, after walking in a straight line, reappearing at the exact place they started, as if the forest folded space around them. And the truly demonic detail, well, visitors often return to their cars with scratches, deep, long scratches, some arranged in 3 claw marks, a pattern associated with demonic attacks throughout multiple religions. So let me ask you this: which demonic place would you visit if given the chance? I think I would choose this last one, this forest in Romania, but I don't know, who knows? We'll see how my mood feels on the day of, so let me know who's coming with me. Thanks for watching. I'm your host, Ashley. I'll see you soon. Some videos aren't meant to be watched, but I'm diving into real cases of haunted footage that is so infamous that paranormal investigators and skeptical experts have warned the public to stay away. Let's talk about the Seacliffe Asylum basement tape, the footage that should have never been made public. In 1999, a contractor working at the abandoned Seacliffe Lunatic Asylum in New Zealand captured what was meant to be routine documentation of water damage. Instead, he filmed what experts have called one of the most chilling, unexplained encounters ever recorded. The man walks through the basement, narrating the smell of mold, the peeling paint, until the camera glitches hard, drops out for a second, then comes back with a figure standing at the end of the corridor. You can't see a face, only a silhouette. The contractor calls out, thinking it's a trespasser, but the figure does not move, it just tilts its head. And then, this part made even veteran ghost hunters nauseous. The shape appears behind him in the next frame without ever walking. The contractor screams, the camera hits the floor, and the recording ends.
In at number 5, we have Palmer House Hotel. This hotel is not only considered the most haunted place in Minnesota, but to some, it's considered the most haunted place in America. Located in Sauk Center, the hotel has been visited by paranormal activity investigators from across the country. Recently, the ghost hunter from the Travel Channel, Ghost Adventures, even investigated the hotel. A brothel that went by the name of the Sauk Center House occupied the current grounds of the Palmer Hotel, but the Sauk Center House burned down in 1900, and the Palmer was built in its place the following year. The Palmer Hotel was established in 1901 and is notorious for its permanent ghost residence. The most reported ghost in the hotel is named Lucy, who resides in room 17. Legend has it that Lucy was an adult worker that frequented the past building of the Sauk Center House. Though Lucy endured a terrible accident of losing her life at the hands of one of her clients. Even though this happened in the building, the Palmer Hotel can't seem to get rid of the spirit of Lucy. The ghost of Lucy is said to dislike men by slamming the room door of male guests. Some reports her slamming the room door so hard it rattles the artwork on the wall and aggressively drops the temperature. During a recent investigation, a Chicago ghost hunting outfit allegedly recorded a temperature of -1 degrees Fahrenheit during their stay. Additionally, there was a couple staying at the hotel that reported a horrifying ghost encounter in room 17, where the wife woke up in the night and suddenly saw a lanky man dressed in 1920s clothing standing at the foot of the bed. Other active areas include the bar in room 22, home to a spirit named Raymond, rumored to be Lucy's manager. One employee of the Palmer House Hotel has confessed that their favorite paranormal experience is when guests complain about how noisy the people above them are, even though they are on the top floor. The ghost encounters and paranormal activity is so frequent at the Palmer Hotel that the current owner, Kelly Freezer, didn't believe in ghosts, but this changed when she became the owner of the hotel. In at number 4, we have the Soap Factory. The Soap Factory was at its peak during the soap boom of the 1880s, though now the factory has been left abandoned. The Soap Factory is one of the oldest factories in Minneapolis. While the process of making soap required lots of fats, lie in extremely hot temperatures, therefore it wasn't the most glorious or safest workplace in its day. Furthermore, the fats came from animal carcasses, thousands of them. The flow of blood and skin leaked into the Great River next door in the turn of the century. The building's smell of flesh made it a hot spot for stray dogs that the city paid to be rounded up and sent to the end of their life. If that's not creepy enough, there are legends regarding malpractice taking place at the factory, with animal fats from local restaurants taken to be made into soap. And there were also rumors of child labor at the factory, but whatever you choose to believe, there is no denying that the site contains negative energy. Now, the basement of the abandoned factory is used for haunted tours. The tour is so scary, in fact, that guests have to sign a waiver and have to be 18 to go on the tour. In at number 3, we have First Avenue. Located in downtown Minneapolis, the building, which is now home to this nightclub, has a rounded front, is painted black, and has white stars on its sidewalls with the names of many of the musical talents who have done shows in one of these 3 event rooms found inside. Before it was famous for being a nightclub, the First Avenue Avenue was a Greyhound depot. The First Avenue legend has to do with the building's former self, the Great Art Deco Greyhound Bus Center that opened on 7th Street in 1937. The story goes that a young woman went to the station to meet her boyfriend who was returning home from World War II. When she was informed that he had died in combat, she ran into the restroom and ended her life due to heartbreak. In recent years, multiple First Avenue staffers have reported seeing a ghost in the washroom. The ghost has been reportedly described as a woman always in a green army jacket and sometimes seen dancing at the club along with other ghosts. Legend says that many homeless people died in the bus station as well, and they can be seen dancing with the women. There have been reports of another spirit haunting the nightclub. The staffers nicknamed this spirit Slippy, while this particular ghost is said to make a balloon appear from nowhere which then floats up and down the staircase on its own. Dave Schrader, paranormal investigator, visited First Avenue to assess the paranormal activity in the building multiple times and has concluded that the building is indeed haunted by many spirits, indicating that the record room is the most active area of the site. While DJs that have played at the venue have reported frequently hearing strange noises through their headphones such as growls, voices and screams, other performers report their equipment being pushed off stage with no explanation.
The Island of the Dolls in Mexico is said to be possessed by a little girl's spirit. Hundreds of dolls hang from trees, most with missing eyes, limbs, or their faces melted off from the time they've been there. Now, the Island of the Dolls is said to be haunted by the spirit of a girl who drowned nearby. The island's caretaker, Don Julian, claimed the girl's ghost would speak to him, and he began collecting dolls to appease her and kind of just like, I guess, settle her spirit. Now, he passed away under very mysterious circumstances, actually in the exact same spot where the girl had passed also. Locals refused to visit after dark. Visitors claimed to see the dolls blink, turn their heads, even they're hearing whispers sometimes. Now, this is one place a lot of people visit. You can too if you really want to. Just make sure to bring a doll with you. The Banff Springs Hotel in Canada. Now, room 873 is gone, but not really. If you go to the 8th floor, you'll notice something really strange. Room 873 doesn't exist. Now, located in the Rocky Mountains, this luxury hotel has a very dark past. In the 1920s, a man reportedly unalived his wife and daughter in room 873 before taking his own life. After numerous reports from guests seeing handprints, like on the mirrors and on the windows, ghostly apparitions, and screams in the night, the hotel supposedly kind of bricked up the room entirely just to close it off. Today, there's no door there, just a stretch of wall, and who knows what's really behind it, but some guests say if you knock on the wall, something actually knocks back. Penhurst Asylum in the USA. This is where evil lingers in the walls. Now, the government shut it down, not just for misuse and mistreatment, but because staff absolutely refused to enter entire wings of the whole asylum. Penhurst State School and Hospital in Pennsylvania was infamous for neglect, cruelty, and just really horrifying conditions. But when it closed back in 1987, that's when the real terror actually began. Paranormal teams report being scratched by something, gagged, and pushed by unseen forces, hearing whispers in the halls, feeling like someone's watching them, feeling like something's touching every part of their body. Now, one investigator was actually hospitalized after collapsing and babbling in a weird language that no one recognized and no one could actually decipher what he was actually saying. Several areas now of the asylum are now permanently locked off, even for film crews, so there's not really a chance that you'll get in even if you try. I don't think I'd want to anyway, if we're being honest. These are just a few of the places where even seasoned, really experienced paranormal teams fear to tread. Some of them are banned, some of them are still accessible, but some were erased from maps, and in every case, something evil was left behind. But let me know, would you visit any of them if you could, even in the daylight? Let me know. Thanks for watching. I'm your host Ashley. Until next time, stay scared. These cursed towns in the United States that people mysteriously abandon will send chills down your spine. Centralia, Pennsylvania, a place where the fire still burns beneath the streets. Imagine waking up one morning to find the ground literally cracking open beneath your feet. Smoke pouring from sinkholes, carbon monoxide creeping into your basement. Well, that's what happened in Centralia, Pennsylvania. A quiet coal town until 1962 when a fire accidentally ignited an underground coal seam. They thought it'd burn out in a few days, but it didn't. That fire is still burning today. Over over 60 years later. The roads warped, houses were swallowed by the earth. By the 1980s, people were ordered to evacuate. Today, graffiti-covered Route 61, known as Graffiti Highway, is the only clue left of a town once home to over 1,000 people. And some who return say they've heard voices in the smoke. It's definitely a creepy place to visit, but if you go, come back and let me know your experience.